Hello and welcome to Property Mastermind Podcast, episode 153. Today, how much money do you need to do a property development? Bob and I will unpack this and you will be quite delighted at the many answers that we come up with for you. Bob's also going to give away a thumb rule, which is, of course, a thumb rule, but very useful for people wanting to get started in property development or wanting to do property development. Remember, our tagline is property development made easy. So Property Mastermind, property development made easy, that's our goal. Jump on into this episode 153 where you can find out how much money you will need to do a property development. Hello and welcome to the podcast, episode 153. Crikey. Well done, Bob.
Well done, you. You started it all.
I know. We are podcasters officially. Anyway, before we kick into this riveting episode of how much money will you need, and I know you're going to be dying to know how much because it's a conversation I have on a very regular basis. Giving away the book, Property Millionaires Exposed, and this week it's going to Joe Lampreyre. I said that completely wrong, but it sounded French. It was such a lovely name. Anyway, Joe, this book will be in the post to you, and we hope you enjoy it. Bob's Stories says head to page 121, where it's all about property development. So, Bob, before I kick off, the usual frightening question, what am I going to ask you?
I never know what you're going to come up with.
That you're not prepared for. I'm thinking, Bob, I might go to this one. If you were to go to an island to spend the rest of your life, what 3 items would you take with you? Oh, now he's not good on the spot, hey? This would be me. Is this a me question?
Oh, gee, fishing rod.
A fishing rod? Yeah, it's a good one.
Love to fish and it'll catch my food.
Yeah.
I might have to eat raw fish though.
It's okay.
I mean, if I took something that'll run out of gas on me. Well, initially, a stone that you can flint the spark and make a fire.
Right.
I think that'll last longer than box of matches. And what else? I know. I'd take this with me. Oh, I just dropped it.
Oh, hang on.
It's your book.
Oh.
Go and get it.
This one?
Yeah. So I could read something while I was on this island and keep me company. Remind me of you.
I don't think you're telling the truth there. But anyway, very lovely. Lovely thought. Taking 3 wines in. I'd probably take a bottle of wine. I know I'd run out. Maybe you could take, I didn't say how much, maybe you could take a case of wine just so you could have a glass a day. A vat of wine.
A vat of wine and a long straw.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
We've got your 3rd one. All right. Well, that's kind of not what I was thinking, Bob. But anyway, I was impressed with the fishing rod. That was really smart.
You would have probably said sunblock because you're always
I'm a bit funny
reminding me to put sunblock on when I go outside.
I know.
And I'm always forgetting.
Yes, I know. And that Danish skin of yours. Crikey. Anyways, Bob, we've given away the book.
Yep.
We've frightened you with that question.
Yes.
Now to the topic that's so easy for you. How much money do you need to do a property development? And like I said in the intro, the reason we have this topic is I get asked this question so much. If you book in a call to Property Mastermind, you speak to me. So you're always going to, it's a me call. But often that people just think, can I do this? Do I have enough money? Will I have enough money? Yeah. And that's something that we often get asked. So it sort of, the reason for this podcast is I want to get your, all the variations that impact this answer. And also I want you to give away the thumb rule. And then we're going to give away, we're going to talk through some case studies on varying ways this has happened, and you'll find it incredibly interesting. This is also in our weekly email this week. So if you're not on our database to receive that, jump on, we'll put a link below, and you can, even if you just want to get these, but it'll be in the weekly email that comes out Friday. And you'll find it'll just surprise you and interest you at what's possible for you. So, Bob, okay, How much money do I need to do a property development? She says cheekily.
She says
cheekily.
Well, you could also say, how much money does anybody need to do a property development? Because it doesn't have to be you or your money, as we know. It could be a joint venture. But anyway, back to the question. Look, as always, there's variables. So it will depend on the location.
Yes.
the type of project and the size of project that you're going to do here.
Mm.
Like if you're in Sydney and you're looking at doing a project maybe 10 kilometres further out than Parramatta or at Neutral Bay, very different values. You know, one you might build a house for 700,000 out back of Parramatta, and Neutral Bay might have built a house for 7 million. So location's important. Type of project is like a subdivision. It costs less to develop a block of land than it does to build a townhouse. And I suppose the type too, what is it? Is it apartments, townhouses, you know, duplexes or vacant land? So there are a few of the variables, but
I think, variables do matter, but let's say we'll stay with like 3 or 4 townhouses or a duplex, because that's kind of where.
Well, let's stick with a duplex. A lot of people start there.
Yeah, okay. Let's start with a duplex. What would be, if you wanted to do a duplex, how much money would you need? And I'll let you talk through the areas like you just did, or perhaps how can you manage this from here, so to make it quite clear for people.
Yeah, well, that's why I came up with that little thumb rule. I'll give you away later.
Yeah, cool.
So it's up to the financier as to how, you know, they have different rules around how much they'll lend. And that will depend. It could be a bank. It could be what we call a non-bank. And that can vary quite a bit as well. So as to how much money you need. We call that equity. Hey, when we're talking about property development, you have to put in some money. We'll call that equity. And the financier puts in the rest. Now, the good news is they'll put in a lot more than you. So how much you need? Well, we're talking about duplexes. So that would depend on to do with the value of the duplex, which has got a lot to do with where it is. So, I mean, I'm thinking of suburbs where a duplex unit might sell for $1 million. I'm thinking of other suburbs where it'd sell for 1.5, 2, even 2.5 mil. So that's different locations, but also the quality and perhaps the size of the duplex units would be different as well. Certainly in an upmarket, let's say an upmarket area where a duplex unit might sell for $2 million, the standard of finish and probably the size of it would be quite different. It'd be up spec from somewhere where a duplex unit might sell for, $1.2 million.
Mm.
So that all comes into it. But, when it comes down to how much do you need to put into a project, a lot of non-bank financiers, they'll lend you about 65%, what we call 65% of GRV. That's a very common average size loan that a non-bank.
And just explain the word GRV for people that are new. Most people don't know, but there will be a couple of people that don't know what that means.
GRV is gross realisation value, which is quite a mouthful. But what it is, it's the sale price. So if I said you're going to do an upmarket duplex, you'll end up with 2 units being a duplex. It might be, when I say upmarket, that depends on where it is, but let's say they were worth $2 million. So the GRV of your project is $4 million. It's what you're going to sell them for. And typically a non-bank, when I say a non-bank, the reason I say that is that something like about 80% of all development finance these days is done through what we call non-banks. So they're financiers who aren't banks, pretty simply. If I went back, 10 years, it was probably the other way around. It's probably, 80% of finance was from banks.
Why did they change, Bob?
Oh, well, banks changed. They changed a bit after the GFC and also, coming into COVID. I think banks make so much money out of just normal retail loans.
They can't be bothered.
They make a lot of money out of, obviously, owner-occupier house loans, investment loans, and they make a lot out of fees.
Mm.
I mean, back in, 20 or 30 years ago, banks almost charged no fees.
Mm.
Whereas now, if you have a look at the balance sheet of a bank, they make a huge amount just out of fees, not just from lending. So they basically pull back the banks on lending on property development. They're still in there a bit, but they tend to want to lend on projects that are a little bit larger, that they can get some economies of scale out of, and also with clients that have been long-standing clients with them as well. But they're quite conservative in their loan-to-value ratios. How much money they'll lend you is fairly conservative. The non-banks, they tend to lend you more money, which means you put in less. And they tend to not look as hard at the borrower that a bank does. So that's a little bit like background information there. But I was saying non-banks, they lend about 65% of that GRV, not including the GST. So you take an 11th off that to get rid of the GST. They tend to lend you about 65% of that. So the question is, what's it going to cost me to do this project? So if you got your cost to do it and you take off that loan, that 65% of GRV, whatever it is, then that gap's what you got to put in. And it is certainly a lot less than what the financiers will put in. And look, there's some non-banks that'll lend a bit higher than the 65%.
So that's your thumb
70%.
rule? Let's say that again
so
it's clear.
Well, that's not actually my thumb rule.
Oh, no, can we not go? Okay.
I'll come out with the thumb rule if you want me to.
When you're ready.
But I'll just give you an example of what non-banks, what sort of percentage they tend to lend.
Yeah.
65, sometimes up to 70% of that GRV. So it's not all your costs. So you have to tip some in. Look, if you were to run some averages, and it's like any thumb rule, it's based on certain parameters, I guess you could say. If a bank, or not a bank, if a financier is going to lend you money on a typical duplex or 3 or 4 townhouses, here's a rough thumb rule. The amount of money you have to put into the project is approximately equal to 20% of the GRV. So let's just have a look at that example of the 2 townhouses, the 2 duplex units. I said they sell for $2 million each. So we have to take off the GST. Let's just say we're left with a bit over 1.8 million. 1.8 million divided by 5. Well, you can work it out. It's what, by 3.
Without a calculator?
30,
My brain's
6,
too tired for that.
300. It's 300. No, it's not. It's
Would you like me to get it? Would you like me to get
360, 720, I think. I just did it in my head. But
okay.
Anyway, you can work it out. So 20%, that's 1.8 million per unit. So it's about, let's call it about 3.6 for the pair. So 1/5 of 3.6, 5 into 36, 5 9 to 35. Okay, here it is. It's just over 900,000. So somewhere around $900,000 will be the total equity that you need to develop 2 duplexes that are worth about $2 million each at the other end.
So go through that formula.
It's a thumb rule.
Yeah, go through the thumb rule again, because when you did it like that, saying the numbers, somebody listening, if they're not a numbers person and they can't understand it, just go through. So break it all down again. So we've got that.
So the GRV is $4 million.
4 million.
Okay. We've got to take the GST out of that because they tend to lend you, roughly 65, 70% of GRV. So if we were to if we're trying to work out what our loan is, we take the GRV off, and then we have to work backwards. Yep. But if it's just a very simple thumb rule,
so you've got a rough idea.
You can leave the GST inclusive amount in there. It's roughly 20% of 4 million, which is about 800,000. So somewhere in that, 800 to 900,000 is the amount of equity that you would need to put into that sort of a project.
There you go.
That's with a non-bank. And as I said,
thumb rule,
yeah.
Can't hold us to it.
But I can think of a few non-banks who lend 70% of GRV on things like duplexes.
Okay.
And so that, I could show the maths another day. But look, work on about 20%.
So that's a rough idea. So, and I think what that does, Bob, is it makes people understand, or helps people understand roughly how much money they'll need. Okay, then poses our next problem. I don't have $800,000 to get started, because once you've got that, then you'll borrow the rest of the money when it comes to construction. All that stuff happens. But what if I don't have 800,000 or 900,000 in this rough example to get started? And that's when we talk about using joint venture strategies and creative strategies. Yep. So we're going to roll through a few that we've got. These are students that are ours and currently doing, have done, are doing now. They're
mentoring. We call them mentoring students.
Yeah,
are they?
They are mentoring students. So these are just mentoring students, not just other people. I'm not going to say just other people. Not
Well, because we work with them so closely,
we know.
We know.
But I still know of others that have done a course that are using creative strategy. So it's not like you're a nobody. Remember, we're pretty hands-on with our people. So, but we're going to roll through these, and this is so you know how much money you need, because that's the start. And I spoke to a young lady a couple of weeks ago, really young, and oh my goodness, I love when I speak to young people like this. She was at university, still living in a home share situation, and she goes, I just want to be a property developer. I want to do property development. And, she had no money up front. So my advice to her was, well, you probably would look at the property accelerator. Like, you need to get some idea on what you need to do. But if somebody's that passionate to move forward from a younger person, they're going to have to look at creative strategies.
Yeah.
And there are varying reasons why people use creative strategies. One, they don't have any money. 2, they've had a business go bad. 3, they've had a marriage breakup. 4, they just never saved any money and woke up one day and realised they didn't have any. 5, like, there are a plethora. Oh my God, I love throwing that word in every podcast.
I knew you'd throw that word in somewhere.
I do. But there are plenty of reasons that people use joint ventures, or they've already got another deal going and they think, I've got a great opportunity. So, more land on their lap is a word that we throw around as a term. So there's just any sort of reason. It doesn't necessarily mean they don't have money. It just means they don't have it right now.
They could have their money tied up in one project. Another opportunity comes up and they think, well, do I just let it go? Or do I work creatively and maybe make half the profit out of it?
So we're going to talk through I made a bit of a list. And as I said, this isn't our weekly email this week. So if you want to see this list, because it really will open up your eyes to what is possible in normal, everyday people just like you. And that's what I like. It's everyday people. These are, I'm not going to say you're not special. We're all special. But they're just regular people, which are the people that we work with, help support whatever the way we work. But these are just their deals that they've got going on. There was one other thing we do have, and this is the reason for this podcast. We do have our joint venture workshop coming up in July on the 27th and 28th in Sydney. It's a workshop where we unpack how to do it, teach you 2 full days.
Wow. And
we'll cover just breaking it down, because people see the word joint venture and they throw it away as a term, but it's just it's creative strategies, and joint ventures are a type. And
there's lots of types of joint ventures and capital raising and structures. We'll cover everything. Yeah,
so if you are interested in learning about that, there will be a link below, and it's in July. Hopefully you listened to this before then, and if not, well, you missed it. Okay, so I've made a list of 12 examples. Well, we'll just rip through a few and open people's eyes to them.
Yep.
Okay, so here, this is the first one we're going to talk about, is a couple from Queensland. Mm-hmm. They've got a 3-lot subdivision and 3 houses.
Yep.
Okay, they had enough money to get started. They purchased the site with their own funds and got a DA. Mm-hmm. They required investors' funds at the construction stage and approached friends and family to join them as loan partners.
Okay, so that's interesting. Yeah, so these are people who have enough money to buy the site.
Yeah.
In this case, a 3-lot subdivision. They're planning to build houses on those 3 lots.
Yeah.
Whether they build them all at the same time or
stage
not,
them or
really
whatever.
Yeah. That will dictate their finance a bit. If they do them one at a time or do all 3 at once. So they had enough to buy the site, needed more money for the construction, went to the family.
Yeah. And this could be you. You could be in this situation here. So how much money would they have needed up front, Bob? Do you remember?
Oh, look, well, to purchase the site was really buying. It was a house on a larger block of land.
Right.
So, you could do that on a 20% loan. So that was, I think it was, I'm trying to remember, about 1.3.
Was purchase price?
The purchase price, yeah. So maybe, including legals and stamps, maybe 300, 350 to get them into the site.
Right. So how cool is that? Because, and you might think, I don't have that either. But if you look around you might have friends and family that do, which is what they did moving forward, but they were able to get started. So that's just one example. I don't know if we'll go through them all. I'll just do a few. Okay. The next one, we've got a male in Victoria, and he did a duplex. He joined his dad and formed a trust with a corporate trustee. They purchased the site and acquired commercial finance for construction. They shared in the profit in proportion to the capital that they invested.
Yeah, that was a good one, because it was one with your dad.
Yeah, it was with his dad.
Oh.
Yeah, not me. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. With his dad.
Yeah.
Well, I've done the reverse. I've done one with my son, but so that was great. I keep it in the family.
Yeah.
His dad was looking, to make some more money, and there's a great opportunity there to do a project with your son. And I remember that one too because that was well timed, that project, purely because of the market. But they did quite a lot better even than they thought originally.
Oh yes, in fact, I'm going to ask them to come on this podcast very soon. But the market jumped and they made an extra 200 each side, came out with an extra 400 in profit. How good is that? He rang me fizzing.
It was in a very good suburb.
It was, but they had a bit of a strategy change. They were at the time, so this only sold that they sold about November last year, November 23. Okay. But at the time when he first started looking, he was looking over in WA, and that was just slightly before WA got hot. It's definitely warmed up, and so just changing location, he ended up becoming a property development manager. He wanted to quit his job and become it. All his dreams came true pretty much. He did our mentoring and life just happened how he wanted it. It was just perfect example of, everything went right. But
so they pooled their money on that one.
Yeah, and then shared in the profit proportionate.
Use commercial finance.
Yep.
Where you don't need serviceability.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's something a lot of people don't realise. You don't need serviceability for commercial finance. Oh, there's a little nail drop. Lots of people go, what? I didn't know that. Okay, the next one. I'm going to go to a New South Wales one now. Couple New South Wales subdivision and 2 upmarket houses negotiated an extended settlement and had funds to pay the deposit and obtain the DA. Was introduced to an investor as a JV partner to obtain finance for the purchase and carry them through to construction, where they will obtain commercial finance. So this one's still underway.
Yeah, that's a good one. So there was some. What was good about that is that he was able to get it under contract for, I think it was about a 6-month settlement.
Yeah.
So time is great because it gave him time to get the thing set, get it settled. Because he had enough money to pay the deposit, but not actually settle, I should say.
Yeah.
6-month settlement. And then started getting the DA, brought the investor in. So the investor is an equity partner, so they're both in there equal, on the title, on the loan.
Meaning he's not just investing money and getting an interest rate return, so he's an equity partner.
An equity partner in this. And 2 upmarket houses in a very good area. They'll go well, those houses.
So that's exciting and underway.
So that's an equity partner one where the other person puts up the equity.
So now I'll go back to another Queensland. So I went Queensland, Victoria, New South Wales. Oh, I'll go South Australia. South Australia couple, 2 and 3 lot subdivisions and house builds. 2 and 3 lot subdivisions and house builds use their own money for a deposit and DA. Introduced an investor at acquisition phase and withdrew their own funds to recirculate for the next development deposit. Utilises commercial finance for the construction. And this couple, they have been interviewed on this podcast, but they do this they do this. This is how they work their business. So they do this again and again and again. You want to unpack that, Bob?
Yeah. So they got enough money to get the site, purchased, if you like. So they got the deposit,
DA money.
Yeah, DA money. So they settle. They start the DA. Then they bring an investor in. But generally, their investors are paid a capital return on their funds. But the funds they bring in then reimburse them for their deposit and their DA costs, so that they can then look at circulating that into a new project. And then they pay an interest rate return to what we call a loan partner to get those funds back. No, the funds technically remain in the project, but the funds they borrow funds from an investor on a second mortgage basis to basically give them the same amount of money back that they have in that project, and then they run with that, and that enables them then to start another project. So what they're doing is they're
recycling their deposit,
recycling their money. Yeah. It's deposit plus some extra.
How good's that? So we've done. So I actually have 12 here. Here's another one. I'll do one in WA. Okay. So WA, where is that one? WA is. I'm trying to go all over the place. And here it is. Female WA 4 NDIS apartments. And it was a joint venture with a builder. 4 people used their own funds, removing the need for a financier. Each investor kept their own unit on completion to hold as a long-term investment.
Yeah, so that's not so much a creative strategy, but what it is, so joint venture with the builder. So 4 people, 4 units. They each put in cash to cover all the costs. So that project was never financed with a financier.
No.
So they each paid for their individual unit as it was developed. So they get that at cost price. And the builder managed it. Had very good connections as well with NDIS and so forth. And then at the end, each person ends up, I think the builder took one, there was 3 other people involved in it, and each person ends up with an NDIS apartment. These were builders' apartments, and 2-bedroom ones, I think, NDIS apartment, and with no debt.
Bob goes, I think it was me. But it's just a way of showing how people can do things differently. Like that was just done so differently, and it opens up your eyes to, you know, possibilities. And you wouldn't have necessarily had to have gone in and done it at cash up front. It was just how it was.
No, they're not the easiest things to finance, although there is finance out there. But just decided that you know, because he just had the money, just run with that. No, you know, we don't really need a financier.
Yeah, there you go.
That saves a lot in interest and valuation fees. Up, you know, quite a lot of savings doing it that way if you got the cash. Okay,
the next one we've got a female. Oh, we've got to go back to Queensland now. Okay, Queensland. Actually, I don't know if I'll put this one on here. We could actually do. Because I've done so, I wrote out so many, and I wanted to make sure I went around the country and make sure I went male, female, couple, because we have males, we have females, we have couples in our mentoring program, but also in our community. So it doesn't matter whether you're a male or female or couple. We have such a mix of people doing stuff everywhere. So I'm going to go with male Queensland. Upmarket Duplex had some money to go toward the site but needed more.
Oh yeah.
And he actually ended up with 2 people with self-managed super fund to act as loan partners and supply the extra funds and purchase the site. And then he's going to use a commercial loan for construction. So there we go. And then he's going to use another one that's in motion. I think he's done demo anyway, so we're on route there.
What's interesting about this person is that they're a partner in a different project where they're supplying funds to that project.
Yes.
So they're an investor in one project.
Yes.
But then there's another project where they're the developer. Now they've used 2 investors. So he needed to top up the amount of money he had to purchase the site in the first place.
Yeah.
So he had money of his own, but he needed a top up. And the top up came from 2 investors using their self-managed super fund, because they're just lending the money to him. They're not part of the project, so they can't use their self-managed super fund in a project that they're part of, but they can lend that money in a proper structured loan format, and that's what they're doing. So that's quite interesting, being an investor in one, a developer in another, and then using 2 people's self-managed super fund to top it up to purchase the site.
Are we showing you what's possible? And even I forgot that he was an investor for somebody else. And that was actually, we've interviewed Alex. But we just have so many of these examples which show different ways that you can do this if you want to. It's just, you know, doing everything right and knowing how to set yourself up so you do have enough money to get started. And so you can do property development if that's what you do want. Okay, so the next one we'll go to is... we'll go back to Victoria. Oh, yeah, another female. Love this one. Female Victoria, subdivision and 3 townhouses, used none of her own money, had 1 investor with a first mortgage security. That was me. And 1 with a second mortgage security.
Yeah.
At the construction phase, she acquired a commercial loan and paid out the first mortgagee and retained the second mortgagee to completion. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah. So this is a situation where she bought a house on a larger parcel of land.
That's right.
First of all, she did a subdivision where she cut the house off and did a great reno on that house, because we've seen it.
Yeah.
And then on the other land, got an approval to do 3 townhomes. So when I say townhomes, they each end up on their own title.
Yeah.
And so that's like 2. It's a reno and a subdivision and building townhouses all in the one project.
And one project with.
So the funds came from initially yourself.
Yeah.
you put the capital in. You got a first mortgage, like a bank does, first mortgage security. Then there was another investor who topped up the capital. They got a second mortgage. So that was enough to acquire the site and do the reno and get to that point where she had the approval for the 3 townhomes. Now, at this point, she needs more money to do the construction. So she went to a financier, and then the financier lent enough money to pay you out because they had to have first mortgage. They had to pay you out as the first mortgagee. So you got your money in.
Plus, I needed it for mine. We're all recycling here.
Everyone is recycling money. That's all we ever do. And then the second mortgagee stayed in the deal, and they maintained a second mortgage behind the financier. Yeah, and they'll get paid at the end of the project as well. So that was an interesting one. That one. It was not just because you were the first mortgagee.
No, but just interesting, and again, a way for you to open your eyes and think, "Wow, okay, there are different creative strategies and ways to do things that you may not have thought of." Let's go now back to New South Wales. We've got Victoria. Oh no, that was Victoria. So we need to do another New South Wales one. Okay, let's go with female New South Wales, 5 townhouses, negotiated a contract on a deceased estate with a long settlement, commenced DA with her own funds, then introduced 2 investors as equity partners and reimbursed herself for the deposit and DA cost. Obtained commercial finance for construction. The profit was split 40-30-30.
40-30-30, yeah. So people often say, "Oh, I'm doing a joint venture. What should the profit split be?" And there's about 4 or 5 questions you need to answer before you actually come up with that. It's not uncommon for if one partner puts in all the equity, the other partner does all the work. They're both on the loan. It's a joint venture with equity partner. It's not uncommon to share it 50-50, but it doesn't have to be that way. But then we got with this one 2 equity partners. So what happened here? She brought in 2 equity partners, and she'd already put in some equity of her own to get that far. So when the 2 equity partners came in, she got enough off them to not only supply enough equity for the project, but to reimburse her for her costs, which were probably the deposit and the DA costs. So she's now in a position where she's got no money in the deal, being reimbursed, and now has 2 equity partners who've put in the equity, and now they're going to develop it. And at the end, they're going to split the profit 40 to her and 30 to each of the 2 investors that make up the equity. How did it end up at that number? Well, it's just by discussion and negotiation.
Yeah, discussion and negotiation. That's exactly it. It's kind of, it gets me excited, this sort of stuff. I suppose that I do a lot of the capital raising here. So
I do all of the capital raising.
Yeah, I do all the capital raising. So often talking about money and investing and to be fair, I've helped a lot of these people, with conversations around
looks like you've helped a couple with money of your own as well.
Yeah, but if I know it's a good deal, why would I not invest in it? If I've got some funds, I'm definitely up for that. I'm just a bit busy right now. I shouldn't have put that out there. I have 100 people emailing me.
I'm short a couple of million on a project. I'll have to talk to you after this podcast if you don't mind.
Oh, you want to? Okay. Well, we always have opportunities available, and great for self-managed super fund too. So if you're looking for somewhere to park your super, feel free to reach out.
Great opportunities for self-managed super funds.
Yes, we do right now. And okay, let's now look at where we want to go back to. Should we just do one more? I do have 12 I haven't done over here on Male Victoria. Male New South Wales, Duplex, had funds to purchase, obtained residential finance to construct. It's a bit of a stock standard.
Well, you got resi finance to construct.
Oh, that's right.
Which is pretty rare.
Yeah.
Normally, it's difficult to get normal residential finance to do a duplex. Doctors sort of can, because they're treated special. If you've got a really good relationship with a bank and probably got other business, they sort of reluctantly do it. But normally retail banks don't like funding developments because they've got low interest over a short period of time. It's hardly worth their effort. Yeah. Normally either commercial arm of a bank or a non-bank, because they charge higher interest rates, they charge application fees. They're prepared to do it on a short-term thing like a 18-month or a 2 or 2.5 year project. And that's a goldie, isn't it? If you can use your own funds and get residential finance. Yeah, well, the interest is low. Everything about it's low. Everything's low. It's not easy to do. It's a winner chicken dinner. Yep. Actually, I do want to do this other one from Queensland, 13 lot subdivision.
we probably just about need to get Kyle onto this, the accidental developer, used their own funds to purchase. And the interesting thing about this development was they purchased a large site, and that's a husband and wife, and they just wanted to cut off a piece to build a house for the mother-in-law.
So it already had a house on it.
Yeah.
They just wanted to cut it into 2 lots.
Yeah, and let the mother-in-law
live
live
on
on
the
one.
existing house, and build a house for.
I think they were going to give her their house, and they were going to build
the other
a
way
new house.
around. Yeah.
Anyway, they go to they apply. They try to get this underway, and the council wouldn't let them. They wanted them to do a bigger subdivision, and it started as 12 and ended up being 13, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, so
because they saw that as an underutilised. The council saw that as an underutilisation because they wanted more lots, more houses in the area, and cutting this larger lot just into 2 didn't gel well with the council. They said no, you need to subdivide it. And as you said, it started off at 12, ended up at 13. So he thought he was going to do a 2-lot subdivision, ended up doing a 13-lot subdivision.
Now he's living. Honestly, when it comes to property development, he's all over it.
He is a whiz.
And so then to finish that off, he ended up approaching his mother-in-law to be she's a joint venture partner, or is she?
Yeah, she's I'm not sure whether she's a loan partner or a joint venture partner.
I'm not sure either on that
she's
one.
In there.
She's in there for acquired commercial finance for the construction of the subdivision. Mother joined as a loan partner, I've got here, to obtain the DA, and then acquired commercial finance. And then when he finally stopped panicking about, oh my God, I've got to do a big subdivision.
That's why he joined the mentoring program.
It was why. And then he ended up getting an extra site. And that so often happens when you get that extra site.
That's cream on the top.
Just when your numbers bump right up. Yeah. So anyway, there are 12. If you want to read the rest, they're in this week's email. But you're welcome to have a read.
That was a good selection there.
Yeah, but it just shows what's possible, whether you are a male, female or couple, whether you live anywhere in Australia, what's possible and ways of doing things. 1, how much money you're going to need, use Bob's thumb rule, and then 2, how do you make that happen? So as I did say, and if you're keen to come along to our joint venture workshop in July on the 27th and 28th in Sydney, there will be a link below to question. We've still got the early bird special on until the end of June. So numbers are filling fast, so you won't want to muck around. But we're excited about this event. We haven't done this sort of thing, one before. We teach it in the course, but not sort of to a level where you're going to leave feeling, whoa, I've got this, I can go do this. I'll cover ways of teaching you how to create an information memorandum, how to speak to people who want to invest with you, how to approach people. Bob will just break it all down. We've got a few of the people that we use coming along to speak as well.
Yep.
So it's going to be a great event. But anyway, Bob, I think, how much money do you need? You've given away a great thumb rule.
Yeah, that's that thumb rule. As I said, if it's a non-bank, if they lend about 70% of GRV, net of GST, then it's going to be more likely about 20% of your GRV. If they lend a bit less, they're more like about 65%. Then it's probably going to be 23 or 24% of your GRV that you have to tip in as equity.
There you go. That's a rough way to know. You can sit there and think, can I do that? Absolutely you can. Anyway, we hope you've learned something useful in today's podcast, and catch you again next week for episode 154.
Oh, look forward to that.
Okay. See ya. Bye for now.